My golden stepbrother stole my mom's necklace to cover his college expenses, and with my stepmom's help, they pinned it on me. So my mom accused me of being just like my dad and kicked me out when I was 16. 4 years later, we crossed paths at Aunt Claire's 70th birthday party, and OMG, Mom's face went pale when Aunt Claire made this jaw-dropping toast. I was 16, I'm currently 20, female. I don't want to get into all the background stuff, but let's just say my relationship with my mom was rocky at best. My stepbrother, 21, male, was the golden child, and I was the one always walking on eggshells around my mom and stepdad. My stepbrother always had this distaste for me. I didn't do anything to him, but he took it upon himself to make my life miserable. On top of that, his mom supported whatever he did and would sometimes even join in on his antics to make my life more unbearable. My mom refused to go against her husband, so by default, she'd side with my stepdad and punish me based on whatever lies they told her about me. Initially, I tried to defend myself, but I quickly realized that nobody in that house actually cared for me, so I started keeping to myself and barely interacted with them. I guess that really ticked my stepbrother off, because he made it his mission to make me as miserable as possible. One day, my mom's expensive necklace went missing. It wasn't just any necklace. This thing was a big deal to her. I didn't know it was gone until I came home from school to find my mom furious, my stepdad giving me cold glares, and my stepbrother acting all innocent. I knew something was up but couldn't figure out what. Then, out of nowhere, my stepmom started accusing me of taking the necklace. She said I must have stolen it because I'd been acting strange lately and desperate for attention. My stepbrother backed her up, of course, saying he saw me acting suspicious around my mom's room. Just to be clear, the only suspicious behavior I had was grieving the death of my childhood dog, who I had since I was 4 years old. Of course, I was desperate for attention. I mean, my dog was the only thing that kept me grounded when my parents split up, and I wasn't allowed to live with my dad. My desperate attention was just me crying a few times at dinner, which my mom always insisted we do as a family. The only reason I broke down was because my stepbrother made it a point to joke about how the house felt so much better without my ugly creature. There. My mom never told him to stop being so cruel. She just told me to stop being so emotional. Anyway, I was completely blindsided by what my stepmom and stepbrother were blaming me for. I didn't even know the necklace was missing, let alone have anything to do with it. I tried to defend myself, but it was like talking to a wall. My mom was already convinced. She went off on me, saying I was just like my dad, who she always called a loser and a liar, and that I had to leave. She kicked me out right then. I was 16. I had no plan, no place to go except my dad's house, which I did for the next 4 years. I didn't hear a word from my mom, even when I did my best to reach out to her and clear my name. Not a text, not a call, nothing. I knew in my heart that I didn't take that necklace, but they didn't care. My stepbrother and stepmom had pinned it all on me, and my mom just went along with it. It hurt me so much that she just accepted their version of the story, without even trying once to check with me. I tried to move on and focus on rebuilding my life, trying not to think about how betrayed I felt. My dad, who's emotionally distant but at least more stable, ended up being a support system. If there was one positive outcome from the whole situation, it was that I got to spend more time with my dad. I managed to graduate high school and then college, though my mom was absent from both events. It hurt a lot, but as the days passed, the pain gradually lessened. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and Aunt Claire was turning 70. Despite everything, I was invited to her birthday party at a farmhouse she rented for the day. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go at first because I knew my mom, stepmom, and stepbrother would be there, but Aunt Claire and I had always been close. She was there for me when my mom kicked me out. She lived in a retirement home and couldn't really help me with a place to stay, but she did help me financially. She was my best friend, and we got along like a house on fire. So I knew I couldn't miss such a big milestone for her. So I decided to just suck it up and go. When I walked into the party, I immediately felt all the old tension come back. Seeing my mom again after 4 years, sitting with my stepmom and stepbrother like nothing had ever happened, made my stomach churn. I kept my distance, but I'll admit that every time I happened to glance at either my mom, stepmom, or stepbrother, I felt this huge lump in my throat and had to physically fight back my tears. I did my best to mostly hang out with other relatives and avoid any interaction with them. My stepbrother didn't even look at me, and my stepmom had this smug look on her face, which made me feel even worse. I wanted to do nothing more than walk over and confront them in front of everybody. But I knew I couldn't ruin a day meant to celebrate Aunt Claire. I was just trying to get through the party when something totally unexpected happened. At some point, my relatives and all of Aunt Claire's friends began chanting, asking her to give a toast. Considering it was her day, Aunt Claire agreed and stood up. She started off by thanking everyone for coming, talking about how blessed she felt to have lived for so long and how she had wonderful memories with everyone present. But then, out of nowhere, she started talking about my mom's missing necklace. She said she had recently found out what really happened to it, and that it had been stolen by my stepbrother. I'm not even lying when I say that I actually felt my heart stop. Aunt Claire explained that just a week before the party, she had been talking to an old friend who owned a pawn shop. They were reminiscing about old times. And somehow my mom's missing necklace came up. Her friend mentioned that a few years back, someone had come into his shop to sell a very similar necklace. Aunt Claire showed him a picture of it, and sure enough, the guy remembered it right away. He had taken down the name and ID of the person who sold it, and it turned out to be my stepbrother. After a little prodding, Aunt Claire's friend told her that my stepbrother had been in such a panic about why he was selling the necklace that he told her. The exact reason why he was pawning off such an expensive item. He even mentioned that my stepbrother had said he would have his mom come up with something so he wouldn't get into trouble with me, or my mom. Turns out my stepbrother had sold the necklace to cover some car expenses. He'd gotten into a minor accident because he'd been drinking and wrecked the front of his car. Instead of asking for help, he stole my mom's necklace and pawned it off. I highly doubt the repair costs were anywhere near what he got for the necklace, so I have no idea what he used the rest of the money for. Anyway, he knew if my mom found out, he'd be in serious trouble. So he and my stepmom made up the story that I had stolen the necklace. When Aunt Claire's friend confirmed that my stepbrother was the one who sold him the necklace, Aunt Claire couldn't believe it. But she did some more digging and managed to figure out that her friend was telling the truth. Aunt Claire also revealed that she had debated whether or not to say anything right away, but decided to wait until her party so she could reveal everything while the whole family was there. She wanted to confront my mom, stepbrother, and stepmom all at once in front of everyone, so she could humiliate them and clear my name. As soon as Aunt Claire finished her toast, the entire room went dead silent. My mom's face turned pale, my stepbrother just froze, and my stepmom looked like she had seen a ghost. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me wanted to scream, part of me wanted to cry, but mostly I just felt numb. It was like all the pain and anger I had been holding on to for the last 4 years came rushing back at once. I didn't stick around for the fallout after Aunt Claire dropped that bombshell. I quietly left the party. I couldn't handle seeing my mom's reaction or whatever was about to happen next. I just needed to get out of there and process everything on my own. I walked out feeling vindicated, but also incredibly sad. I had waited so long to be proven innocent, but now that it happened, I didn't feel the relief I thought I would. Instead, I just felt empty. Aunt Claire came over to my place the next morning to check in on me. She was genuinely worried that she had done something wrong by bringing my family drama up in front of our entire family and her friends, but I assured her I was very grateful for what Aunt Claire did for me. She told me that she understood how I might be feeling and advised me not to rush into any decision regarding my mom. She assured me that she'd have my back no matter what my mom or her family said about me, and that she'd support me regardless of whatever decision I made regarding my relationship with my mom. Now I don't know what to do. My mom has been trying to contact me nonstop since the party. Initially, most of her texts and voicemails were her apologizing and asking for forgiveness. She said she was wrong and wanted to make things right. Then, the messages slowly started to shift toward blaming me for allegedly brainwashing Aunt Claire and trying to ruin her relationship with my stepmom. Of course, that hurt a lot. I mean, is there any way this woman would choose me over her rotten wife and son? Sorry, that was harsh, but I just don't know what to do with how I feel. My mom is still asking to meet me and talk about everything that happened. I don't know what to do. I don't think she'll ever apologize for anything, especially after her last few texts about me supposedly brainwashing Aunt Claire. But on the off chance that she does apologize, I don't know if I can ever trust her again. It's been 4 years of feeling like I didn't matter to her, that she could just toss me aside like that. As for my stepbrother and stepmom, I haven't heard a word from them. And honestly, I don't want to. They ruined my relationship with my mom and turned my life upside down. I don't think I could ever forgive them for that. So either I don't want to see my mom or forgive her, and I'm still feeling bitter about everything that happened. Update. It's been a week since I last posted here, and I've lost count of the number of comments and messages I've received asking for an update. So here it is. First of all, thank you to everyone who commented and empathized with me. Thank you for all the advice and your critiques as well. It's crazy how many people actually cared about what I was going through. A lot of you told me to go no contact with my mom, while others suggested giving her a chance to explain. Well, I ended up deciding to meet with her, even though my gut was screaming not to. I don't really know why I agreed to it. Maybe I just wanted closure. Maybe I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, though I wasn't sure if she deserved that. But deep down, there was a small part of me that hoped she'd finally show some real remorse and prove that she was sorry for what she did. So I texted her back and agreed to meet at a cafe we used to go to when I was younger. I figured it was a good neutral ground. When I walked in, I saw her sitting there looking kind of nervous. It was weird seeing her after so long, especially after everything that went down at Aunt Claire's party. For a second, I thought maybe things could go back to how they used to be, but that feeling didn't last long. She started by apologizing, saying she knew she'd messed up and that she was sorry for believing my stepmom and stepbrother. She talked about how hard it's been for her since the truth came out, and how she feels like she failed as a mom. At first, I started to soften. I thought there was a tiny chance of us being able to at least try to rebuild some kind of relationship. But then things took a turn. He went on this long rant about how he'd been under so much pressure back then and didn't know what to believe. I mean, okay, I get it, but that doesn't excuse how he tossed me aside for 4 years. Then he actually accused me of manipulating Aunt Claire. He said he wasn't entirely convinced I hadn't somehow stirred the pot to make Aunt Claire turn against him and embarrass his family in front of everyone. I was so shocked by my mom's accusation that I couldn't even say anything initially. I mean, she basically admitted she still didn't fully trust me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I just sat there staring at her, trying to process how she could say something like that. All those texts about wanting to make things right, and now she wanted me to apologize? At that point, I started to realize this meeting was a huge mistake. She wasn't here to apologize, at least not genuinely. She just wanted to clear her own conscience or shift some of the blame onto me. I called her out on it and told her that it wasn't fair for her to put any of this on me. I reminded her that she was the one who chose to believe my stepbrother and stepmom, without even giving me a chance to defend myself. But instead of taking responsibility, she doubled down, saying I was being unfair to her and that it wasn't her fault because they, meaning my stepmom and stepbrother, had tricked her. She even suggested that maybe I should forgive them, because family is family. That was it for me. I couldn't listen to any more excuses. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry. She got caught up in the mess and was embarrassed in front of the whole family. I told her I didn't want to hear from her anymore, unless she could genuinely take responsibility for her actions. Then I got up and left. Since that meeting, I felt weird, at least that's the best word I can come up with to describe the whole situation. They're telling anyone who will listen that I'm overreacting and blowing everything out of proportion. My cousin even said my stepbrother was bragging that their side of the family is still sticking together, and I'm the one who's isolating myself. I don't know what's going to happen next, but right now I'm done with all of them. My mom clearly isn't going to change, and as for my stepbrother and stepmom, they've done enough damage in my life already. I'm just tired of it. After that meeting with my mom, I went no contact. I was done. I blocked her number and ignored any family members who tried to guilt me into giving her another chance. But 2 weeks after my meeting with my mom, Aunt Claire called me and asked if I could come over to talk. I wasn't sure what it was about, but since Aunt Claire was the only one who had my back through all of this, I figured I'd hear her out. Aunt Claire essentially told me that she'd come across some evidence while going through some stuff from the rest of the family. How did Aunt Claire find out? Well, it turns out my stepbrother had a really bad understanding of how credit cards worked. I don't think he realized that while making purchases out of the company's accounts, Aunt Claire would have been able to see where all the transactions were made. When Aunt Claire saw transactions made for nail appointments and hair blowouts, she knew for a fact it wasn't my mom. My stepmom had always kept her nails clipped and was very adamant about her appearance. Aunt Claire also told me she had disinherited my mom. Yeah, she cut her out of the will entirely. Everything, and I mean everything that was supposed to go to my mom, is now going somewhere else. including a hefty chunk that's coming to me. Aunt Claire said that by siding with my stepmom and stepbrother for all these years, my mom had proven that she wasn't responsible enough to handle the family's legacy. Not only that, but the fact that my mom kicked me out with nowhere to go. And even after the truth came to light, Aunt Claire sold my mom's house, so none of them could continue to leech off her financially. They're going to be completely cut off. Oh, but that's not all, apparently. When my stepmom found out what Aunt Claire had done, she lost it. I mean, a full-on meltdown. She tried to guilt-trip my mom into fighting back against Aunt Claire. But there's nothing they can do legally. My mom's stuck because she didn't protect her finances, and now she's at the mercy of whatever my stepmom and stepbrother want to do. I never want to text her about her struggles. When she was the reason I was out on the streets at the age of 16, it made me see red. Even when she was reaching out to me, she couldn't take responsibility for her actions and instead blamed it on her mother. I sent her a short response, basically telling her that she made her bed and now she has to lie in it. I don't feel bad for her at all. She and her mom ruined my relationship with my mom and tried to destroy my life. So why should I care about her now? She only hurt me over and over again. There's still a lot up in the air, especially with how my mom's handling everything. Part of me wonders if she'll ever fully cut ties with my stepmom and stepbrother, or if she's just too deep in their lies to see the truth. I guess we'll see. Right now, I'm focusing on myself, but something tells me this isn't over yet. Update. Well, here we are. I wasn't sure if I'd be posting another update, but a lot has happened, and I thought it would be a good time. My mom had to sell it. He was forcing it. See, Aunt Claire technically owns the property, and my mom was just living there under some fancy trust arrangement that Aunt Claire controlled. So when Aunt Claire cut off all financial ties with my mom, it meant that the house my mom was living in was also no longer hers to live in. Aunt Claire gave my mom a chance and told her she could live there as long as she kicked my stepmom and stepbrother out. Of course, my mom could never turn her back on them. To top it off, my stepbrother tried to get my mom to sell some of her remaining personal stuff just so she could keep paying off her car loan. Sometimes I think I dodged a bullet by not properly growing up under my mom's care, because otherwise, I would have ended up just as spoiled and shameless as my stepbrother. My stepmom and stepbrother found it really hard to adjust to their new life. Not surprisingly, after they were cut off, my stepbrother lost all access to the luxuries he loved. He filed for divorce from my mom. Yep, the woman my mom sacrificed everything for turned her back on him. Who could have predicted that, right? Well, he figured that since my mom was now practically broke, there was no point in sticking around. He probably thought he could get a hefty settlement from her, but unfortunately for him, there was nothing left to take. Aunt Claire made sure that all of the assets were out of his reach, so now he's stuck with nothing. I can't say I'm surprised, though. He played a part in all of this, and I don't see us having any kind of relationship. It sucks, but I've made peace with it. Aunt Claire, on the other hand, is doing great. He's been a rock for me through all of this, and we've grown even closer since everything came to light. We've talked a lot about the future, and he's made it clear that he wants to make sure I'm taken care of, especially after everything I've been through. So yeah, I guess this is the end of the road for this saga. My mom, stepmom, and stepbrother have all made their choices, and now it's time for me to move on.